You weren't supposed to find this. If you did, it means something ancient in you has already begun to turn. The quiet lock under your ribs, the one nobody told you existed. They trained your eyes to look up and outward. They forgot to show you the vault within. Tonight we don't debate. We unseal. 10 forbidden teachings. Censored, cut, redacted, burned, buried. Because freedom is hard to police. Not because they were weak. Because they make you free. If you still think Jesus came to launch a brand, they trained you well. If you still think every gospel is bound in one table of contents, they got you twice. If you still think holiness is a stage and truth is a slogan, breathe. There is an older current moving under the noise. It does not need permission, credentials, or incense. It needs your attention. The Gnostic Gospels whispered the rest. Tonight we say it out loud. We won't ask for keys. We will remember we were born with them. Stay with me. Somewhere ahead, the most forbidden line will turn the lock you've been carrying. Once it turns, you won't be able to unknow it. And the world will never look the same again. They crowned him so you would kneel. He came so you would stand. Follow me never meant admire me at a safe distance. It meant walk what I walk until it walks you. He did not arrive as a mascot of heaven. He arrived as a forbidden map, not a performer to clap for, but a pattern to embody. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I say? He wasn't collecting fans. He was searching for mirrors, people who would reflect what he revealed. Worship from afar is cheap. Imitation is costly. To imitate him is to let the old self die daily and let a brighter one steer your hands, your speech, your money, your mercy. It is not loud. It is not fashionable. It is steady fire. The most forbidden sentence is the most simple. He didn't come to be worshipped. He came to awaken what worship tries to outsource. He came to end the addiction to middlemen, to transfer holiness from stage to bloodstream, from ritual to heartbeat. If that offends the system, good. Awakening always does. Look at your life for one honest minute. When were you last told to rise instead of bow? When did anyone tell you that the same current that moved through him can move through you? If the answer is never, take this as a legal notice to your amnesia. You are not a spectator in the story of God. You are a living page. Keep watching. Before we're done, the crown becomes a mirror in your hands. The most scandalous geography lesson ever given lasted one sentence. The kingdom of God is within you. Not later, not elsewhere, within. They built cathedrals to turn your gaze outward. He built a doorway no architecture can own. Close the door, he said. Enter the secret place. Speak to the one who already hears. There is a hidden vault under your sternum, redacted from sermons, intact in you. No priest installed it. No ritual manufactures it. It is native. If the kingdom is within, who holds the keys? If the throne is within, who declared you unworthy to sit where you already are? They trained you to knock at distant gates, to beg for what is breathing you right now. He trained you to become the door, to turn the handle from the inside. Try it, not as a theory, but as an act. Turn your attention inward and still. Don't push thoughts away. Let them settle like snow in water. Under the swirl is a clear lake. That clarity isn't empty. It is aware. It is love that sees. This is why the page was redacted. People who can find the kingdom within cannot be sold tickets to find it elsewhere. People who can sit with God in a rented room do not purchase thrones of approval. When you learn the door is under your ribs, you stop living as a beggar at the gates of your own house. They marked heaven on a map. Far, later, after. He tuned it on a dial. Here, now, within. Heaven is not a distant reward for the well-behaved. It is the native tone of a life aligned to its source. You don't travel to a frequency. You tune to it. You don't earn a sunrise. You face it. When your inner instrument is tuned by truth-telling, mercy, simplicity, the static clears and the song appears. You weren't locked out. You were out of tune, this terrified empire. That's why this chapter got banned, then rebranded as later. If heaven is a state you can enter without permission, priest, or payment, their keys become decorations. So they turned a presence into a product. They said, after the funeral. He said, after the lie dies. The lie that you are separate. You have touched this frequency. You know the moments. Tears that made no sense. Beauty that stopped your voice. Forgiveness you didn't think was possible. A quiet that felt like home. That wasn't emotion. That was evidence. Heaven is not later. Heaven is proximity to what you already are. You don't need a ladder made of rungs. You need a ladder made of remembrance. Each remembered truth lifts you one step into clarity you never left. Don't blink. What opens next is the reason they sold you tickets to the sky. If they convince you were born broken, they own your repair. If they convince you are permanently dirty, they rent you purity forever. But what if sin isn't a stain baked into your soul? What if sin is forgetfulness? A turning away from the light you carry. Repent doesn't mean grovel. It means turn again. Turn from the theater to the temple. Turn from the mask to the marrow. Turn from borrowed shame to original light. You were told the story begins with a fall. What if the first human act was opening the eye they tried to keep shut? What if the fruit was consciousness, and consciousness has always threatened control? When people remember, they become ungovernable by fear. So the memory was painted as guilt, and the guilt was weaponized into obedience. Here is the forbidden medicine. You cannot hate yourself into heaven. Shame glues you to the floor. Remembrance lifts you like helium. When you remember who you are, the behaviors that harmed you fall off like old bark. Close your eyes for a breath and test this. Call to mind something you regret. Now place it in the light of the truth that you are not your worst act. Feel what happens in your body when you treat it as amnesia instead of identity. That warm release isn't indulgence. It is repentance working as designed. Stay. What returns next is the edit they feared most. They shrank eternity to one try, one threat, one ledger. Mystics kept a longer logbook. The soul isn't a tourist passing once through Earth. It returns. It learns. It remembers. Call it reincarnation. Call it return. The Gnostics called it remembering. He alluded to Elijah returning. He asked, "Who do you say I am?" Not for applause, but for recognition. Some looked at him and saw more than a name. They saw a pattern they had met before. Why censor this? Because a soul that knows death is a doorway cannot be ruled by fear of the exit. A soul that knows this isn't the first or last classroom cannot be blackmailed by grades. If you've ever felt older than your years or haunted by places you never visited, you know the ache of memory. It isn't a trick. It's a library opening. The point isn't trivia about past lives. The point is responsibility in this one. If you are here again, it's because there is something to complete. Forgive, embody. You didn't stumble into this moment. You returned to it. Keep listening. The edit you were never meant to hear is still ahead. They taught you to imagine the faith as a parade of men with titles. Yet when the story breaks open, a woman stands with oil and tears and understanding. Not a scandal to manage, a disciple to honor. Mary Magdalene knew him not as an icon, but as a living current. Her word for him was not a job title. It was the one who lives. Her forbidden gospel speaks of inner seeing, direct knowing, union that doesn't require permission slips. That is lethal to systems that depend on middlemen. So paint was thrown, lies were nailed in place. The living water was renamed until people were too embarrassed to drink. But water finds cracks. Here we are again, hearing her voice through the stones. The voice that says you are allowed to know God directly. You are allowed to trust the witness within. Let the feminine in you, man or woman, stand up again. The part that receives, nurtures, integrates, and speaks truth without needing a podium. Say it under your breath. She is rising, not against men, against amnesia that kept the pulpits quiet, not to dominate, to balance. Don't look away. The next reversal unmasks the stage itself. This world is not my kingdom. He wasn't despising the earth. He was decoding it. The stage is useful, but it is still a stage. The robe is beautiful, but it is still a robe. You are not cloth. You are the light wearing it. That ache you carry, the sense that nothing here fully fits, isn't failure. It is homesickness. Don't medicate it away. Treat it as a compass. Let it point you beyond props into source. When you mistake the mirror for the sun, you burn with the wrong fire. When you honor the mirror as mirror, you finally see through it. Your job isn't to escape the world nor to worship its shadow. Unmask it. Let the light behind your eyes remake it. One honest word, one act of mercy, one refusal to participate in lies. This is the redaction they enforced. If you think the stage is all there is, you'll sell your soul for applause. If you know the stage is a shadow, you'll use it to tell the truth and then bow out smiling. Stay close. Now we name the real adversary. They handed you a cartoon devil so you would stop noticing the real one. The true adversary isn't a creature hiding in smoke. It is amnesia. Not possession, disconnection. Once you forget where you came from, you'll believe anything about where you're going. Once you forget what you are, you'll rent identity from whatever shouts the loudest. Addictions multiply. Noise becomes normal. The fog wears your name tag and calls itself me. You don't need an exorcism. You need forbidden remembrance, the kind that doesn't ask permission. Bring your attention home like a shepherd calling a scattered flock. Feel the breath that was never purchased. Listen for the peace beneath the headlines. Choose one honest action now and let it cut through the fog like a bell. The devil of amnesia hates bells. Ring one, and don't stop. What opens next is the key they tried to steal, label, and sell back to you. They built temples of stone because stone is easy to measure. He pointed to the temple of flesh because living temples cannot be owned. Go within, he said. Shut the door. Speak in secret to the one who sees in secret. Gnosis, the Gnostic word for direct knowing, is not trivia about heaven. It is contact. It is the difference between reading the word water and feeling the first clean drop on your tongue. It is the untheatrical certainty that arises when presence meets attention. You don't need permission slips for contact. You need stillness. You don't need to wait for the right mood. You need honesty. Sit. Breathe. Name one untrue thing you're carrying and set it down like a stone. In the space that opens, something living will move. That movement is the real sermon. Gatekeepers fear this. Lovers of truth don't. Stay One more lock is about to click. They taught you that God sits far away on a throne. He lived like God was here, being itself, the pulse in your blood, the silence behind your eyes, the yes that rises without being taught. Christ in you, not Christ over there. Not blasphemy, biology of the soul. You are not merely the image of God as if you were a framed painting. You are the expression, the living brushstroke continuing across the day. This does not inflate the ego. It empties it of pretense so presence can take your shape. When you awaken the Christ within, you start seeing it everywhere else. In strangers, in enemies, in the face you stopped recognizing in the mirror. That vision is the beginning of heaven on earth. Not a place we run to, but a presence we become. Not a trophy to polish, but a current to pour. The most forbidden sentence of all is the most liberating. You were never meant to worship God from a distance. You were meant to embody God, up close, without a middleman, through justice, mercy, truth, and joy that does not need an audience. And now you know why this had to be censored. The middleman dissolves when the temple wakes up. He wasn't crucified for being nice. He was crucified for awakening people. Awake people don't fit in cages built of fear. Awake people don't trade their conscience for belonging. If you let these teachings move from ears to spine, there will be a price. Some will misunderstand. Some will mock. Some will say you went too far only because they cannot go with you yet. Let it confirm you. Friction is flame. Resistance is a sign you're outgrowing what once held you. What you lose is only what was never you. The costumes, the applause, the contracts signed under fear. What you gain is a life that hums with the same tone he carried. Steadiness that doesn't brag and doesn't break. You won't become invincible. You will become true. And truth outlasts every rumor. We have unsealed what they redacted. Not theories, keys. Keys are not collected, they are used. If any part of you is brighter than when we began, honor it now. Place your hand over your heart. Feel the current under your ribs. Whisper, I remember. Say it again until the words stop being syllables and start being recognition. Carry remembrance into action before this day sleeps. One honest apology, one private act of generosity, 5 silent minutes behind a closed door. Forgive one person and remove one lie from your schedule. Heaven is not later. Heaven is what happens when you treat your life like the temple it already is. If this found you, let it find the others. Like this as a signal fire for the ones still wandering. Comment, Unsealed, or I remember. Not for vanity, for the field that connects us. Subscribe not to a brand, but to the reawakening already moving through your own spine. Each time you return here, you aren't listening to me. You are listening to the part of you that cannot be managed, marketed, or muted. Before we part, hear the sentence they hoped you'd never believe. You are not waiting for revelation. You are the revelation. You are not outside the kingdom. You are what returns it. Walk in light. Guard the flame. When the next door appears, you will know it by the way your bones say yes. Until then, remember who you are. Not a seeker, a returner. Not a subject, a son or daughter of the living. Not a shadow, fire. If you return and listen deeper, notice the rhythm hidden in plain sight. A crown turned into a map. A cathedral turned into a chest. A place turned into a frequency. A stain turned into amnesia. A single life turned into a spiral. A misnamed woman turned into living water. A world turned from prison into mirror. A devil turned from monster into fog. A doctrine turned into contact. A distant deity turned into breath. 10 edits reversed. 10 locks opened. 10 mirrors forbidden to polish, until now. What you do with the light is the only sermon that matters from here. And when you forget, as you will, remember that forgetting is not failure. It is the bell that tells you to come home. Return here, return within. Return to the one who never left. They told you to worship a throne you could never touch. He pointed to a throne inside your chest and told you to sit. They said heaven begins after you die. He said heaven begins after the lie dies. They said you were broken. He said you had forgotten. This is the line they feared most. God is not somewhere else. God is the being of your being, the breath in your breath, the light behind your eyes. Not as ego, but as essence. Not to inflate you, but to inhabit you. If you hear it, do not argue with it. Honor it. Live like it's true for one day and watch what happens in your speech, your money, your mercy, your time. The most forbidden truth is the most practical. It makes you kinder, cleaner, clearer, braver. You are not waiting for a gate to open in the sky. You are remembering the gate in your ribs. Turn the handle from the inside. Step through, and don't look back.